Let's say you're considering this drug, you want to consider the lipophilicity. So when you talk of lipophilicity of this drug, we have two major things that describes the lipophilicity, and one of them is the partition coefficient. The partition coefficient looks at Hello everyone, welcome to another Academy on Medicinal Chemistry 1, and we are continuing on QSAR. We discussed QSAR the last time, and QSAR is quantitative structure activity relationship, and we said that, I want to refresh our mind, we said that QSAR is a mathematical equation or an equation that shows the relationship between the physicochemical properties of a drug or of a molecule, let me use the word molecule, and its biological activity. So it shows the relationship between the geometric characteristics. When you talk of geometric characteristics, you're looking at the size, the shape, the steric effects, and also you are considering the chemical properties. The chemical properties could be the ionization, the hydrogen bonding. So you are considering these things. This collectively, you're calling it's called physicochemical properties. So you're considering the effects of these physicochemical properties on the biological activity of a lead compound. Let's say a compound that you suspect to have biological activity, or a compound you suspect to be a drug, and you're representing this relationship using a mathematical equation or using a mathematical model. So that brings us to physicochemical approaches in QSAR. I made mention of a lot of physicochemical properties in QSAR from our last class. I talked about the hydrophobicity parameter, which is represented by partition coefficient and then pi substituent constant. We also looked at the staff steric parameter. We looked at a lot of them, but today we're going to be looking at the three major parameters used to represent the physicochemical properties in QSAR. So all these physicochemical properties that we've been listing and we've listed, ionization, steric effect, and all of that. So we have three major ones that summarizes all of them, and they are used or utilized in QSAR, which is quantitative structure activity relationship. And then this, if you pay attention, you find out that these three parameter summarizes that previous parameter, the previous physicochemical parameters that we listed the last time. And then the number one on our list today is partition coefficient, which is represented as log P. Okay, so before we go into what partition coefficient is actually a parameter that describes lipophilicity. And we know, I believe we know what lipophilicity is. So we have two major parameters that describes the lipophilicity of a compound or a lead compound. And one of them is log P, which happens to be our partition coefficient, and also the pi substituent constant. You check when you describe lipophilicity, you are looking at how hydrophobic that substance or compound is. And then when you look at log P, which is partition coefficient, you are considering you're trying to consider the lipophilicity of, let's say for instance, this is a drug molecule. This is an example. Let's say you're considering this drug, you want to consider the lipophilicity. So when you talk of lipophilicity of this drug, we have two major things that describes the lipophilicity, and one of them is the partition coefficient. The partition coefficient looks at how hydrophobic is this whole molecule, whereas the pi substituent constant looks at the hydrophobicity of each of these substituents, like this carboxylic group here, and then this NH2. You're looking at what is the hydrophobic what hydrophobic effect does this contribute to the whole of the molecule. So we have already established that when you're looking at partition coefficient, you're talking about the whole molecule, the hydrophobicity of the whole molecule, or the lipophilicity of the whole molecule. Whereas when you talk of pi substituent constant, you're looking at the hydrophobic contribution of each of the substituents to the whole of the molecule.
Hello everyone! I trust you found this lesson from Academy X helpful and insightful. This is just a glimpse of what we're prepared for you. Inside the full Academy X course, you get access to every lecture, solved examples, quizzes, and study resources you need to excel in this subject. To unlock a complete learning experience, simply click the link in the description below. Join us at Academy X, where we bridge the gap between knowing and truly understanding. See you inside the full course.